Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder why you can't stop procrastinating or why waiting for something feels so hard? Well, this new study might have a clue. This research dives into that exact feeling of wanting something now versus waiting for it later. We all do it, right? We tend to value things less the further away they are in the future. Psychologists call this delayed discounting, and it is a big deal. It affects everything from saving for retirement to resisting that extra cookie. Traditionally, scientists have studied this by asking people to choose between receiving a smaller amount of money now or a larger amount later. But what if we could nudge people to be more patient, to think more about that future reward? This study looked at a cool trick. What happens when you remind people to imagine that future event? They found that when people were prompted to imagine future events, they were more likely to choose the delayed reward. This is called the cue effect, and it has been studied before using brain scans taken with fMRI, but this is the first time it is being looked at with EEG, which measures brain activity using little sensors on your scalp. So how did they do it? They had participants play a game about choosing between money now or money later. On some trials, they got a little hint, a cue, that reminded them of a specific future event they had previously imagined, like a vacation or a concert. On other trials, there was no cue after making their choice. They were asked how vivid their mental image of that future event was on a scale from 1 to 4. They also recorded their brain activity using EEG. Now, for what they found, first, the behavioral stuff, people who imagined future events more vividly were more likely to choose the delayed reward, meaning they were more patient. It makes sense, right? If you can really picture that future reward, it feels more real and valuable. Interestingly, people also reported more vivid images when the delayed reward amount was higher. This suggests that bigger future rewards might naturally make us think about them more intensely. But what was happening in their brains? They used a fancy analysis method called partial least squares, or PLS, to look at brainwave patterns. On trials without any cues, they found that brain activity related to valuing future rewards involved a pattern of increased gamma brainwaves and decreased theta brainwaves. Gamma waves are known for being involved in processing information and making decisions, while theta waves are often linked to memory and emotion. This pattern seemed to reflect how much people value the delayed reward when they weren't being prompted to imagine the future. Then, they looked at the trials with the cues, the ones where people were imagining the future. This is where it got really interesting. They found a pattern related to how vivid the imagination was. Specifically, lower activity in the alpha brainwave range, particularly in the back of the brain, was linked to more vivid imagery. Alpha waves are often associated with relaxed states or when we're blocking out external distractions. So lower alpha might mean the brain was more engaged in the internal mental simulation. So putting it all together, this study shows that imagining the future really can make us more patient, especially when that imagination is vivid. They found specific brainwave patterns that seem to underlie this process. Without the cues, certain brainwave changes like increased gamma and decreased theta were linked to the perceived value of delayed rewards. With the cues, the key player was reduced alpha power in the parietal region, which was associated with more vivid mental imagery, and consequently more far-sighted choices. This finding about alpha power is particularly neat. You might think that vivid imagination, which is an internal process, would involve more brain activity, maybe meaning higher alpha waves, which are often linked to relaxation. But the study suggests it is the opposite in certain brain areas. Lower alpha in parietal regions seems to correlate with richer, more detailed mental simulations. This could mean the brain is actively focusing on the internal imagery, perhaps by disengaging from external stimuli, allowing for that vivid experience. The researchers also noted a subtle but important detail. The relationship between EFT cues and parietal alpha power changed over time. During the initial presentation of the delay, cues were linked to lower parietal alpha, suggesting an early stage of mental simulation. But later, during the presentation of the reward amount, this association sometimes flipped, with higher parietal alpha. They hypothesized this might relate to the different phases of mental simulation, like the initial construction of an idea versus the later elaboration or fleshing out of details. Of course, no study is perfect. The researchers mentioned that this is a new area for EEG research, and more studies are needed to confirm these findings. They also point out that other factors like the emotional content of our imagined futures could play a role and are worth exploring. So, what does this all mean for us? It gives us concrete reasons why picturing our future can help us make better. More patient decisions now. It suggests that if you are struggling with procrastination or impulsive choices, actively engaging in vivid mental imagery of your future goals could be a powerful tool. Think about not just what you want to achieve, but try to really see, hear, and feel it. The brainwave pattern suggests that this kind of rich mental simulation is what truly bridges the gap between now and then, making the future feel more immediate and valuable. This research is a fantastic peek into the neuroscience of foresight. It is a reminder that our minds are incredibly adaptable, and by consciously directing our thoughts, we can influence our behavior. What do you think about these findings? Do you find that vivid imagination helps you with your own goals? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Rubin's Mind Lab for more fascinating science. We'll see you next time.